All right, guys, we're down at Live Fire Training Academy in Cottesville, South Carolina. Just wrapped up day one of a course with JJ Racaza down here, and it was an awesome day of training, small class, and we worked through a lot. I appreciate you coming down and hanging out with us.
You're very welcome, man. It's my pleasure.
Absolutely. So, trying to grow a little bit here on the YouTubes,
Sure.
and I reached out to my subscribers and asked them, hey, what are some questions they had for you?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna ask you a few of them.
Sounds good.
All right. So JJ, when you look back through your career and how you progressed in shooting, I'm sure there have been a time. What would you say have been some of the biggest that you can recall?
Some of the biggest I can recall. Man, that's a good one. The aha moment to me was learning how to not necessarily use my ability to shoot fast in order to be fast. I had to learn how to be efficient that allowed me to be fast. And then by utilizing that technique per se, and once I figured that out, that was a big aha moment. Because I realized I can maintain a higher level of accuracy while maintaining that speed that was competitive with the super squad guys. I was fortunate enough to be squatted with the super squad that had a good idea of what the pace was. So whether I was half a second below or a half a second faster, I wanted to make sure that I was there with them, and I had to figure out how they were just as fast but yet accurate. And then to me, it wasn't all about slowing down to be accurate. It was all about figuring out the balance between your speed and where you attack and what control and where the efficiency lies. And that was a big aha moment to me. And there was several other aha moments in my career. That was a huge aha moment.
And you could definitely tell, like, that some of the stuff you set up today definitely highlighted that.
Yeah.
Showed us that you don't have to shoot faster.
No.
It's being efficient in everything else. All right. So JJ, one of the biggest differences in high-level A-class, M-class shooters and some top-tier GMs is mental state and being able to execute with consistency under pressure. What do you do to exercise your mental state in order to prep for and get into major match mode?
Wow, that's a really good question. Goodness gracious. The ability to be able to stay mentally focused and sustain that for a longer period of time and trusting your process happens all in training, not necessarily happens in the match. That's just what people see, right? And like, oh, he did it again. He was able to shoot 18 stages fairly consistently and placed in the top 2 or top 3, whatever. A lot of that happens in training. I learned a lot of it is learning how to program yourself in training. I have a certain system now, which you guys will see tomorrow. Phase 1, 2, and 3. Phase 2 is where I explore, where I try to develop as a shooter. I become faster, I become a little bit more accurate, and I continue to push that threshold of where that 100% is. And I want to find my new 100%, and then my old 100% becomes my new cruising, basically cruising speed. And then phase 3 is where I shoot and operate within that 90 to 95% the entire time and learning how to execute that. I will do that a month before the match, maybe essentially 6 training practices before, and I would love to just repeat that over and over. And I'm working more on my ability to execute as opposed to learning how to push. I'm becoming sharper and sharper, and then I just focus on my mental state. I work on my emotional state. My mindset, emotional state, combined with my physical skills. That all 3 together allows me to be able to fall in the zone and not worry about anyone else. And then when I get to the range in the match, I'm really just focusing internally, competing against myself, not competing to get excited or depressed or affected by someone else's run. And that a lot of it is that when you see someone else's run, ego kicks in and it's like, oh man, I can do it just as good or just as fast. Let me try to rip it. And that increases tension where you're already ramped up to begin with. When you learn to just sit back and go, this is just all I can do at this time. As to whether you were ready for it or not, the way you trained, you were maybe off pace. You just got to execute. Focusing on that will allow you to be able to sustain a better, consistent match, a much more boring match, essentially, and learning how to modulate your emotions, whether you're good or bad run. You don't celebrate it, right? You don't add to the event or subtract to the event. You just be very matter-of-fact about it. Allows for you to be able to have that even-keeled emotion and performance throughout the match.
Okay. So you've had a long career being one of the top shooters in the country and even the world. What's something that you have learned later in your career which would have accelerated your climb earlier?
Ooh, I'm gonna tell you this. It's
told you these weren't gonna be easy.
Gosh, 2018 is what allowed for my career to excel, and I wish I had this. And this is one thing I'm gonna show you guys tomorrow. The phases in training. When I used to go to a range, I would go out there and bring 500 rounds, shoot for 6 hours, and shoot maybe 300, 500 rounds, whatever it is, right? And shoot a bunch of drills and go home. Be like, I shot well, I shot this, I shot okay. There was never like a direction. 2017, I was.
Donovan doesn't want this.
Yeah, no, he doesn't want this. I was kind of put in a position where I had to make my career in shooting better So, and win certain things because I needed sponsors to pay for my bills essentially.
Right.
Because I was now no longer working for DHS. I left it. I was trying to pursue the private world, and shooting was one of those things that allowed for me. And my sponsorship at the time only offered literally like $30,000. Like 3 or 4 major sponsors only offered a total of like $30,000 a year to shoot, and I'm like, that's not enough for the living wage. I'm gonna spend $25,000 to shoot alone,
Yep.
right? And so I needed to make an impact, and my wife was, man, good for her. She's like, we took this chance. We're gonna believe in you, and you got 2 years, because 40 years old is the time you end up last time you can come back to the federal system, and that was my fail safe. Is if I don't make it in the private industry, I'll go back to the federal system. And so basically, I had 2 years, 2018 to 2020, to make things happen. And my wife was like, let's see what you can do in the next 2 years, and before 2020, maybe we could renegotiate a contract. So don't sign any of those contracts. Don't lock yourself in. Came up with phase 1, 2, and 3, from what I learned and discussed with Eric, from what I learned and discussed with Rob Latham, and I started to really write it all down. And now I have this specific area where I explore, push, develop, and then now versus when I just prepare myself as a better shooter. Right, difference. I'm not developing near the match. I'm just preparing myself to become sharper, a better executor. 2 months, 3 months before the match, I'm continually trying to sharpen myself, become better, become faster. I'll be more likely to fail in those periods because I'm constantly pushing. Once I set up these phase 1, 2, and 3 since 2018 till now, present. Besides last year, I had some crazy things happen last year. I had a gun blow up on me and I had a squid. Besides those 2 matches, in every national that I've shot since 2018, I've either been second, if not first. It's the craziest thing in the world, and I've won more nationals than I've ever dreamed of, and even thought was possible for me, because a lot of it is because of these phases. There's not much difference in me. I was just able to figure out a much more efficient way to train, a much more way to be able to involve my mindset and emotions in training and develop that as well as before. I was a shooter to shoot. Yeah, so it's totally different. If I just shifted this 5 years ago, I would have won a lot more because of this phase 1 and 2 and 3. And then, to this day, it's the same thing that I do, and that's why I put it as my backbone in my training, and that's why one of the main things that I
Get disciplined with your training. Don't just burn out.
Yes.
That's something I try to tell like the guys coming into the sport. You got to have a plan,
Yeah.
and the plan has to make sense for you.
Correct.
Most of the world got introduced to you during season 1 of Top Shot in 2010. Since then, you've accomplished some amazing feats, but seemingly you haven't aged a day since. What's your secret to staying young?
Working out, man. I really big thing on that is just continue to develop and work out. Like, to me, I'm no longer chasing numbers for heavyweights because, you get older. I'm 44 years old now, so I'm getting up there. Been shooting since 1989, but really the same thing. Like, a Top Shot, I was 196. I was like, once I didn't need that weight, I don't work for the government anymore. I don't necessarily try to get in fights or have to be big to be able to handle myself. I dropped some of the weight I didn't need, and then just started working within that range of 175 to 185, and to just kind of continue to stay sharp. Eat good, sleep good is a big trick, but when I say eat good, I don't mean healthy. I eat whatever the hell I want, but I work out and I pay for that mistake, right? So yeah, I'm lucky enough, my metabolism is fast, but people don't understand that I work out like a maniac 2 to 3 times a day, depending, and I'm very active. I'm doing Muay Thai, I'm doing Jiu-Jitsu outside of what I do in shooting. And shooting keeps me active and all that stuff. So yeah, keeping active is what gets you to be young. And every night, my daughter now is getting into this nightly routine. I was like, my nightly routine is simple as a bucket of Vaseline and I just lather it on my face. And I'm like, that's my nightly routine. Keeps my face young and fresh.
So
immaturity too, keep that low, because then immaturity, your age kind of balances out.
Stop when I'm hit Walmart on the way home and grab some Vaseline. Okay, a large conversation point in the shooting community is training schedule. In the aspect of dry fire versus live fire, what does a week of training look like for JJ in respect to your dry fire time per session, frequency, and how many rounds of live ammo you're putting down the pipe every week in training? And that's yourself. That's not counting working with students like you are today with us.
So usually when I'm going to break it down. Usually when I'm teaching, I get to shoot maybe 200 rounds throughout the entire class. I don't shoot a lot. I usually only try to sneak in if it's a smaller class like this. I'm like, I'll take the opportunity to shoot. I'd love to shoot if I could, right? Every time I shoot during the class, I always feel like I'm taking away from the students. That could have been an opportunity for me to either work with the student or I would have loved to have an opportunity to pay attention to a student doing a demo and teach and stuff like that. That's number one. Number two, on a regular week, now that I'm home, I'm not working for DHS. I stay home. I shoot from 9 up. I drive. It takes me about an hour and 15 to drive to the range. I get to the range about 10, and I'll shoot from 10 to about 12, about 2 hours. Then I drive from 12 to 1 o'clock or so home to make it to pick up the kids by 2. So with all that said, I get to shoot about 2 hours, depending on the day, depending on how close I am to the match. In a regular week away from the match, maybe I'll shoot 500 rounds in training, and I'm very efficient about it. Maybe I'll shoot one. I'll take a lot more breaks in between. I'm not really ramping up. I'm not trying to work on anything specific. I'm just working more towards pushing myself to be able to get sharper, faster, and be more accurate. Closer to the match, I'll ramp that up to maybe 1,000 rounds every time I go to the range. And if I can go to the range 3 times a week, that's a lot. Usually it's about once or twice a week. And so before away from the match, I'm shooting about 1,000 rounds a week per se. Closer to the match, but 750 a week, give or take 1 or 2 times a week. I can't shoot any more than that. Give it closer to the match. I'll try to be more disciplined, shooting 2 to 3 times a week. So I'll get up to 2 or 3,000 rounds a week, right? So then that ramps up a little bit. Overall, throughout the entire year, since I don't shoot much in January, all the way to like April, generally I shoot around 30,000 rounds per year for me. It's really not as much. That's a lot more than what I used to. I used to shoot just under 20. Last year I got to about 30,000, and I like that routine, but that was more teaching classes. I'm going to try to ramp that up in regards to me training myself in a longer span of time, as opposed to just trying to cram it in within a month, shoot about 5,000. When you're shooting that close and you cram it in, there's not much development happening. You're kind of just
burning rounds.
You're just burning rounds and hoping to polish whatever you were or currently at, is basically what's happening.
Absolutely. And now you're dry fire. Are you doing a lot of that at home in your man cave, or is it when you hit the range? I know I like to incorporate dry fire into my range time as well.
Yeah.
Where does a majority of your dry fire
It's
time
at home
come at?
because I don't have time in the range. I only have 2 hours to schedule. When I get to the range, we literally set up and shoot as quick as we can. We get out of there as quick as we can because in clean up and all that stuff, it's 2 hours. But sometimes, a lot of times, an hour and a half. And that's it hurts because you're driving 2 hours, right? One way, 1 hour one way, another hour home. So it's about, depending on traffic, sometimes 2 hours home. And I'm only spending an hour in the range. It hurts a lot to really think about that. You're adding a lot of miles on the cars and all that stuff, and then the fatigue and all that stuff. So it hurts a lot. But with that said, I don't have time to do anything else in the range but shoot. When I go home, when the days that I don't shoot, I will try to dry fire. I still dry fire it's no longer about 300 days per year. Maybe it's a little less now, maybe 270, 250, 250 days per year that I'm dry firing. I'm dry firing hotel. Last night I dry fired. Tonight I'm going to dry fire. Even though I got to shoot a little bit, there were some things that I didn't like what I was doing, so I'm going to correct that and clean it up. Some of the draw, it kind of fumbled. It was, even though it wasn't obvious to you guys, I felt like it wasn't a perfect grip. So I'm going to clean that up a little bit and see why it caused it. Maybe it's my setup because I changed something last night. I'll correct that until I figure out the problem and stuff like that. So I'm constantly dry firing and dry firing. So I dry fire only at home or hotel rooms.
Okay. And how long of a session? When you
15, 20 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, no more. I used to dry fire for hours on end, an hour, 2 hours, but not anymore.
I found that to be detriment. Once I get past
help.
like 20, 30 minutes, like I can't hardly close my hands.
As a kid, I didn't know anything better to do, but just did it, right? I just kept doing it because I was so far behind than everyone. So, and I didn't have any life. Now, my wife bro, you've been in that garage for like 2 hours. Like, what are you doing? I'm like, you're right. Let me go play with the kids and stuff like that.
I think I figured out a secret. You get your kids to dry fire with you. There.
Yes, it's a really good trick.
Yeah.
Even better when you get your wife to dry fire.
Oh yeah. So, a couple easy ones to finish off with. Whenever you get to the line, you get make ready.
Yeah.
What is JJ's routine for make ready?
That routine is also established prior to. Then phase 3, I established that routine. So once I get to the line, the first thing I'm gonna put myself in that situation. Right? I walk up to the line. I need to get goosebumps. I have such a good visualization of it. I walk up to the line. I'll take a deep breath. I'll wait for the RO to say make ready. As soon as he says make ready, I will clarify to him that it's clear for me to take my gun out. So I say, is it cool? And he said, yeah, make ready. So I know that he said it twice. Right. I'm making the decision for the RO, not hoping that he actually said make ready, right? So, okay, cool. So I make ready. A lot of times I'll turn on the dot, check the dot on the floor, load, decock, holster, and I'll do a very fast forward walkthrough in my head. Like with the stage we just shot, I'm gonna go paper, paper, steel, paper, paper, steel, paper, 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 steel, paper, paper. Cool. I go paper, paper, steel. I'll do it one more time. Paper, 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 steel, paper, paper. And then I'll just close my eyes. I'll blank my head, take a deep breath, and I'll say ready, ready. And then I'll do a slow breath release. and then it's literally that slow continuous breath, and then all of it hit the timer, and then it's an explosive breath of into the holster and getting out of that position. And all I'm thinking about is buzzer, buzzer, buzzer. I'm no longer thinking about the stage. The only thing that comes into mind and thought is the critical targets that I feel like that's dangerous for me is when I get there. If it's a critical target, I'll go right, sights and trigger, bang. I'll do those are the only conscious thought that happens on my stage run. Other than that, routine, I repeat that over and over. It's gonna be sights, good, dots is good. Check my trigger maybe once or twice, but a lot of times I won't even. I'll just holster, think about the stage, fast forward, ready. It shouldn't take more than 30 seconds. Other than that, it takes more than that. It gets me more nervous and more nervous.
So what you're saying is a 2.5 minute make ready will not make you a world champion.
No, that it annoys me actually to see and watch people. And I have friends, right? Good friends of mine that are shooting the super squad that will sit there almost like do a dry fire session. And then do the make ready and then do the visualization. I'm like, good Lord, like we're in. Sometimes if they ask me to record, I'll press record this. The minute they walk in the line, I'm like, dude, this is how long your freaking make ready was. You have a 3-minute video you shot 10 seconds in because your make ready was 2 minutes and 50 seconds. Like you should have been getting a penalty for that one. Yellow flag.
So we'll talk with the board about getting a time limit.
I agree. That should be that.
2 minutes and that's it. After that, you run.
Takes too much time.
Score to 0. Okay, JJ. Last question. What's the one division to rule them all?
Gosh.
Favorite division?
Oh, that's hard. There's a division that I'm currently in, which is carry optics, and I think that is the most popular division to shoot right now because it's everyone. It's the heaviest division. It feels like the old days of when open was just open. There was nobody else shooting. Everyone shot open. So it's carry optics is the division right now that everyone comes into. So that becomes my division because that's where the competition is.
Right.
But my favorite division, unfortunately, it's iron sights. It's limited division, and actually production is next. Now that production is in 15 rounds, that makes it even better to see what that looks like this year. I'm very interested how that's going to play out. I've been second since 2018, except for I think one. Essentially, because my safety was a little too wide, my gun was technically illegal. So I'll be second every year. Almost won it and lost to nails by like 0.5 and all this other stuff. Last year I got second again in production. I would like to take this year's production national title. Besides, the hard one's gonna be carry optics, and then an open if I can even get my open gun up and running and try to get that again as well and finish the match at least on that. So it's a big year coming. I got some deep goals, but we'll see. Hopefully the shooters out there will allow me to win it. That's all it is. Everyone's got a chance to win. It's who's able to put it together that day or for 3 days.
Absolutely. We're looking forward to watching you do it all. I appreciate you taking time to answer our questions.
Yeah.
Let's get out of here and get a shower so we can get back
Absolutely, man. Let's do it.
You guys stay good. Until next time, we'll see you on the range.